Why does it matter that people are watching?
People are traditionally responding more slowly than technology is. So we see a trend here, especially with the Internet of Things, that is spreading around the world. We have a vast increase of sensors in any medium that is recording data. In any door that you open, any corridor that you walk through, there are cameras filming you. And that can be easily aggregated to form a profile of any person, and will not allow you to only see what you think and do, what you do, but also at the end what you think and what kind of a person you are. As long as people are not disadvantaged by the government or persecuted by the government as a result of that, they won't draw an action. But we already see a trend that with the shutting down of companies who don't share their data, with people being denied entry to this country who report about the NSA surveillance, and also with the ACLU being marked as a terrorist by a fusion center in Tennessee, that this surveillance doesn't only help to fight terrorist groups, but it also helps the government to fight any kind of oppositional groups, which leads probably to a tremendous amount of power, and power naturally is corrupted at a particular point. But it'll probably take until this point, until it's corrupted, until people react.
Yeah. Or until it's more corrupted, because I think it's already corrupted to a great extent. But I think again, it's people are confused, because on one hand, the problem isn't that people can see what you're doing or follow what you're doing. It's who can do it, and why they're doing it, and how they do it. Because if I could watch you, let's say, if I could just go, oh, I wonder what he's up to, and just see you, and you could do the same to me, then, well, okay, we're even. Everybody can do that to everybody else, and we can do it. But we can't do that. We don't have that ability.
No.
Oddly, when I go on Google and I search for a new television set, and then I go to Facebook, for some reason I get this ad that says, still interested in a television set? And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. How do they do that? Who is doing that, and how do they do that? Now, that's a relatively benign problem. I can ignore that. I don't even see most of those ads. But it's weird that I'm doing this one thing, and this whole other thing somehow knows about it and is responding to it. And then on top of that, you have the government who's just hoovering up every phone call. I'm sure every phone call you've ever made to family back in Germany is recorded somewhere.
But
by the NSA.
By law, it's even legal. For foreigners, they don't need a secret court approval. So
yeah, and I have a friend in Japan, and we talk all the time about stuff. And I'm sure every call, everything that we've said is recorded somewhere by somebody. Now, everything we've said, it would be very boring for anyone to listen to. I mean, you're not going to find anything there. And I'm sure probably most of your calls are pretty boring too.
And probably even this radio report is recorded and put into the greater system of...
But if somebody...
us on the watch list that...
if they wanted, if they decided, this Michael guy is just, I don't know. Suddenly, all this stuff would have a lot of value. And it would have a lot of value towards making you look bad if they wanted it to. Because they could pick... On this day, you spoke to this person, and you said you were really frustrated with the way the government was going. And on this day, you went on a radio show, and you said X, I mean, they could put that together and make you look really bad if they wanted to, I'm sure. And
Definitely. And for any other American citizen equally. That's...
Only I couldn't do that to you, and you couldn't do that to me. Only the government can do that to us. And that's where the problem lies, I think, because who is the government? What are they trying to do? What is their interest? I mean, it's not too hard to look at other governments and see actions that they take. It's a little harder to look at this one and see the actions that they take because we don't see it as well. The media is happy to tell us about North Korea and what they're doing to their people, or
Right.
what Putin is doing in Russia right now. They're happy to tell us all the bad things about that, but they don't tell us so much about what this administration is doing to these people. So we don't know about it as well. So it's probably like
A form of distraction also.
yeah. I imagine there are citizens in China going, well, China's a pretty free place. I don't see any problems with that. But boy, if you watch our media, every little thing that the Chinese government does to its citizens, and which artists are in jail and who spoke out about what,
Right. But you don't know about who goes to jail here or
Right.
who speaks out here and is not being let in. It's questionable whether the government still fulfills its role of protecting its people, or whether it's rather violating this to spy and to in the end build a surveillance state over its own people.
it's probably doing both
It's
at the same time, I'll bet.
at the same time, right?
Yeah, I'm sure there's part of government, and they think our job is to protect. Well, it's like the police. I mean, you were talking about police shootings earlier. I know there are police out there. I've met several police, and they view their job as protecting people,
Right.
and they feel like that's what they do. The problem, of course, is who is it are they protecting, and who are they protecting them from? And as we've seen in the news, a lot of the times they're protecting white people from people of color. That's who they think they're protecting people from. And if you look at statistics, that's what it says pretty clearly, is that they feel their job is to protect whiteness as a lifestyle, as a way of living, not necessarily white as a skin color, but whiteness as sort of European descendant morals and values and whatever from other
Right.
kinds of things.
And this lack of transparency that you were talking about, not knowing about what reforms are being negotiated secretly by the government, that is only enclosed because we have agencies like WikiLeaks that actually enlighten us about a TPP deal that increases the power of corporations more and decreases the awareness or possibility of the normal people. As if we didn't have these agencies, we wouldn't probably know a lot of things, and there's many more that we cannot know about because the way the system is structured. Yeah,
that somebody just hasn't found it out yet, or they found it out but they haven't figured out a way of leaking it yet, or something. Well, it's interesting actually. We're talking a lot of politics here, but we haven't really spoken much about immigration so far. You are an immigrant.
I'm an immigrant, right?
What has that experience been like for you? How was it? Is it easy? Do you have problems? I mean, what's it kind of? What is it? What is your
experience?
Yeah, I'm lacking words, but I mean, how has that affected you?
So when I came here, I came to the United States because I was passionate about this entrepreneurial spirit and this way of working, so committing so fully to one goal and forgetting your private life essentially, but only doing your work with passion and with energy, which is very different from the German style of doing your work. You're more like you have your private life and your professional life, and you're separating that, and work is just for living, but not for you don't see it as your full life. So what experience have I had in the United States?
Well, you were moved to become politically active, so that must have been something that something about coming here must have been like, whoa, I don't like the way this is. I want to change something about it, right?
Yeah, that came through talking to the people and seeing that a lot of people are not concerned about it, or just reading the media reports, even the mainstream media reports, made me think like, oh, well, if that happened in Germany, what would people do? People would be running to the streets. How can this possibly? Like, how can a policeman shoot a black person and he's not being prosecuted, but an African American Protestant who smashes a car window is being put into jail?
Right. Yeah.
So how can these things occur? But in the country of the free and the brave,
there's that word again.
that claim themselves to be the most foremost country in the world, and that have a public image that is being spread to the entire world, such that everybody in any country, even in Europe or in Asia or in Latin America or Africa, desperately seeks to emigrate to the US. And this image is being changed drastically when you travel here. I started my journey in Detroit, and it was like you always get to know about the American dream and the
right.
How fantastic it is and what you can achieve with it. And when we drove through Detroit, and we went to a hostel just like 15 minutes foot walk away from downtown, that hostel was like completely separated from any other houses. It was just a freestanding house because all other houses had been left, burned down, and the population had decreased vastly. So this is a way where you see the other side of the dream, the nightmare that you can experience. And people coming to this country, it's not only me experiencing that. I have a friend from Hong Kong who started in Baltimore, and he couldn't believe that when he arrived at the airport, he actually he had to be picked up by his landlord because the area that he went to was not sufficiently secure for him to walk there in private, and that happens in a country that that claims to be the world police, that thinks they are the most developed, and that probably has the largest economy, the wealthiest people. So what do you do with this large gap between wealthiness, but also on the other side poverty and criminality? There's a lot of energy, there's a lot of no, I'm also not finding the right words. There's a lot of say I'd say problems and uneasiness. You simply can't picture this. Firstly, seeing a country so shiny, and then seeing the other side is like it's never good to not have this balance, having one extreme and another extreme at the same time. And that's something that completely shocked me and is still shocking me. And that is continuously driving me more. From every day I continue living here.
So that's part of the immigrant experience, I suppose, is moving past the what would you call it? The public relations version of America that we broadcast to the world through our movies and everything.
Movies, media, through through also. I would say news reports in Europe are also pretty positive, and the songs, the general American culture, like this consumption, mainstream. You can achieve anything just if you work hard.
Right. That's such a part of the myth of America. I guess the American myth is anybody can be anything
Right.
if they work hard.
Right. And that's not true.
No, not
as
even
we
close.
see. If we look at the proportion of African American students at the university, we see how hard could they possibly fight, and could they make it to college if they had good grades? They would probably be either have to be enormously talented or so hardworking that a fellowship grantee issues sufficient money for their tuition. But if they're born in a poor family, there's hardly a chance. There's no money, and there's no drive from parents or from siblings to actually achieve something, to be successful in your life. This myth is something that is probably inspiring people a lot, and that is very effective in a marketing campaign, but that is hardly realizable in a country.
Well, there's so much more to it than just the structure. What am I trying to say? Well, there's like specific, like there are laws, and the laws state that everyone has equal chance. You know, there are a lot of things written down that describe, that put a frame around everyone's experience,
right,
in terms of what you can and can't do, who can do what, all those things, and those are fairly reasonable most of the time. But there's so much more to it. You can't script or legislate the way people think and how they act and what they say and what they do. So if you're not from the dominant culture, you are really an outsider.
Yes.
And you are treated that way, and you are put
you're having
in that
the
space.
chances of an outsider.
Yeah.
And the career and the general life. Yes.
Yeah.
Which, however, the majority doesn't concern.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that nobody, I don't know that nobody talks about it. A lot of people talk about it, but that is harder to express or to understand for people.
Yeah, I see this, like, things are written down. Everybody should have equal opportunities, equal chances in his life. But what is realized, what people actually do, is significantly different.
Yeah.
And
so it was a big shock coming here.
It was a shock politically, I would say, from the people and the work mentality, the friendship building, the educational conditions that I have, the research. I'm also doing research as part of my studies. Those are. There I had very positive experience.
Oh, that's good.
I found a lot of new friends. You experience a lot of community building on campus. It's people are very outgoing, very communicative. With regard to Germans or what other people I saw, very passionate. It's also motivating to be here. I mean, you see negative things, but people are also giving you positive things back, and yeah.
That's kind of what my friend from Japan, that was her ultimate understanding, I guess, of the country. Was when she first came here, it was like, boy, there's so much more to this than I had anticipated. It's a much bigger place. There are so many different kinds of people. There are whole places that you can go where you don't even see any other kind of people. So you can kind of go to this area, and it's like a whole world of that sort of person and,
Yes.
and that kind of way of living here.
Yes.
And then you can go like 50 miles a different way, and suddenly you're in a completely different sort of place. Like, for example, have you been outside of Champaign-Urbana much? Have you traveled around?
I went to the West Coast. that was also to visit some other universities. But recently I went to a barn dance festival. That was something that I totally hadn't imagined could possibly exist. You could see this like this passion just to move and dance and totally forget what you're doing. This say people don't care about whom they dance with, how they look like, how sweated they are, what their hair is like. They just do and have fun and enjoy themselves, and you have a great fire in the field, I think. Yes. So that was a very positive experience, and that made me see that you can have a lot of fun with the American people, and they can give you a lot.
Yeah.
That's and you find different communities in. I mean, not everything is like the campus, or Champaign is very different from the campus as well, and outside Champaign. And if you travel to, say, to the West Coast or to other states, you might find. As I talked about Detroit, or as I talked about, we also went to San Diego, and we crossed the border to Mexico, and you see tensions there as people try to come over from Mexico to the US, but they're not being allowed to. You have people being deported or sleeping in the streets because they can't afford a home. There, the poverty is quite high. Things that you won't see here in Illinois that easily.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is actually a little island. Champaign-Urbana is a little island in the middle of Illinois. If you get much out of here, you will see a very different place than this area, because here we have a lot of international students. We have people from all over, so there's a certain kind of tolerance is maybe not the right word, but acceptance of difference here in certainly on campus, but here in Champaign-Urbana, that you will not find in smaller towns like 20, 30 miles in any direction from here. It's a very different situation. I mean, you probably wouldn't experience that if you went, because you don't look to, until you start talking, nobody's going to think, oh, there's something weird about him. You just look like what they would consider a regular person. But it's interesting. It's a very interesting place to live, because this is actually a little island of sort of culture in the midst of a very uncultured wasteland, if you will. Cornfields, farmers. Actually, not that many farmers. That's one thing that's weird in my lifetime that has changed dramatically. When I was young, when you went out into these small towns, most of the people had something to do with agriculture. They were farmers, or they worked on farms, or they did something like that. Now, not so much. People that live in small towns, some of them, there's still a few farmers and things around, but there are a lot of people that they're just small town people. They don't work on farms. They just have like blue collar kind of jobs. They work, they fix cars, or they, some kind of manual labor type thing. They work in construction.
Okay.
They do something like that. So it's a very different kind of person that lives out there now in these small towns from when I was a kid, everybody was a farmer or somehow did agriculture. Now most of the farms are farmed by big corporations. They're not individual people farming anymore. And that's a very different kind of landscape. In terms of how that, I'm sure you run into that in your political, your greenness.
Probably, yeah. I mean, this is the trend of increasing automation and reducing labor, reducing and the shift of people's jobs with the globalization in our world, and it in the end brings, you could say positively, new opportunities for farmers to assume other jobs, but it also brings, if they don't find other jobs, more unemployment, which maybe is more profitable for companies, but not for the country itself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Very interesting. So, where have you gone with this organizing that you do? Just on campus here? Are you going around to the community much? I mean, you've come to see the Immigration Forum, but have you visited other groups and taking your message to them?
Yeah, so we've been in, as I said, I'm also part of AWARE, the anti-war and
right.
anti-racism
Right.
group here in Urbana-Champaign, with lots of community members and who are not students. And so the Green Party movement, I'm primarily taking that to students because I have the most contact with them. But there are also other people in our Green Party, Carl Esterbrook, Karen Ahrens, David Johnson and David Green, who are advertising that to to community members in Urbana-Champaign. And we are having another executive board meeting free for anybody to join on Thursday evening at 7 p.m. in the Urbana Library. So yeah, we are trying to reach anybody. We are not only trying to reach students, but the future, or let's say the most energy and the initiation of change usually comes from universities. And we see movements in Harvard or Yale where student protests are taking place to a high degree. And it requires students' support to affect something. So that's why, the university movement is important.
Oh yeah, I think it's very important. I think it's very. Young people are the energy of change. They're the energy that makes change happen. Older people, like myself, are we may provide wisdom or guidance or something, but we don't have the energy to push things along like younger people do. Who just they're full of passion in life, and they see the future, and that's where they're going to live. I've already lived, so for me it's more I work on things, but I'm less passionate about them. Does that make sense than I used to be?
Makes sense, but you have more intellectual knowledge, you have more experience to, as you said, guide, but also draw out policies how the world could look like. So young people may be as passionate as they are, but they may lack the ability to, when they're given the possibility to change something, to actually do something reasonable that is sustainable or that is
well, that's true. Sometimes
that forms a stable system. So that's where I say more experienced people come into play.
Well, I think everyone needs to work together. I'm not bowing out on account of my age and say, well, I'll leave it to you to do this.
Yes,
but I'm just saying that the motivating energy, the fire, the engine comes from youth. I think in these things, And it just needs a little.
And that's how the Immigration Forum works as well, I guess. That young people are reaching out to potential donors who would pledge money for children who are in desperate situations, and who administrates that money, or who actually evaluates how it might be used, how it might be best invested. That's maybe rather old people, more experienced people. Sorry about the word.
No.
I don't think of you as old, by the way. So that's
thank you. Thank you very much. I don't. I don't feel that old, but I definitely don't feel. I don't feel that same. What is it? It's like a. Maybe it's this. Is it optimism?